falling apart of the lawfare against President Trump. I'd like to kind of tap into your legal knowledge, put into perspective what's happening and how big or huge the
Don't you mean huge?
Huge. Thank you.
Beautiful.
The decision in Florida is relating to the special counsel.
Well, we're laughing, but the lawfare, the 4 different cases that were put up against President Trump, trying to make him a criminal during the election cycle and play that out on the national news media, are a absolute disgrace. And I've even said that 34 years ago when I went to law school, if I had known this was going to be the state of American judiciary and prosecution, I don't think I would have gone into this profession because it's unreliable. You can't predict what would happen. But I have to say my faith has been restored with Judge Cannon's ruling.
Yeah.
And so for years, and dating back to when I was in law school, there's been a debate at the Supreme Court level as to constitutional officers, subsidiary officers, and confirmation by the United States Senate after a president appoints. That didn't happen here. And so that is the ruling by Judge Cannon. It was a bold ruling. She did not step out of line. The argument has been made many times, but judges haven't been willing to go there. And so actually her ruling, if it stands up, and I believe it will stand up in the 11th Federal Circuit Court of Appeals, which governs her court, the same special counsel is also appointed in a case in D.C. The D.C. court, first of all, the D.C. district judge is absolutely inimical to that position, so she's not going to rule the same way. However, it may get up to the D.C. Circuit. None of that's going to happen in time for the election. I don't think the United States Supreme Court's going to rule on that issue. So I think President Trump is home free on the documents case until after the election. And I think ultimately this Supreme Court will agree with the ruling of Judge Cannon. That is my prediction, because conservative justices for years, dating back to Judge Scalia when I was in law school, as a case of Morrison versus Olson, have been questioning any type of appointment that does not comply with the constitutional requirement of presidential nomination and Senate confirmation.
There you go. And to your point, I'm sorry if I can just follow up, to use the word huge again, that has huge implications on this campaign in terms of being able to say, oh, he's a convicted felon or he's got all these cases against him, because now all of that's fallen apart. So that's taking all of this out of the Democrats' bag, their campaign bag.
Well, it is, and they've been disappointed by the fact that with various different rulings, his New York case is not going to result in a sentencing before this convention. That was planned for last week. The case is in disarray on various grounds. Evidence is suspect. I think the United States Supreme Court ruling on presidential immunity impacts that case as well, because they overplayed their hand. Lawyers sent from the United States Department of Justice to supplement that team overstepped. They used statements about President Trump, what he said and did in office, which is now barred by Supreme Court precedent. So that ruling and that jury verdict should be tossed out by a higher court, and I think that may happen eventually. But the narrative has shifted. President Trump is the most incredible force of nature to have been able to shift this huge disadvantage that would have depressed, that would have crushed the spirit of most people, that would have caused them to give up. He is just unflappable in the face of this opposition.
And what a winning streak.
What a winning streak.
What a winning
getting
streak.
up from dodging a bullet, literally, and getting up from that. I might have mentioned that in my prayer on Monday. It was inspiring at a very human level.